I know who you are, and I saw what you did. Samson sat in the room watching and listening. No movement, no breath. His prey was dead. But he knew this. He knew when he held her head between his hands and heard her neck snap that the task had been accomplished. But still he waited, like he always did, just a bit, just in case. He liked to watch. He enjoyed looking at what he had done, looking at the corpse which he had so effortlessly created. The woman was dead, he knew this. The woman did not, and never would. But he, Samson, knew. Samson did not now, nor had he ever felt bad about what he did. He knew it was what he had been meant to do. Some people were born to build bridges, some to herd sheep. But Samson was born to kill. It was just the way of things. Some people are predators and some are prey. Samson knew what he was, and had known his whole life. The woman lying dead in the bed did not know what she was. She probably never had, and certainly never would. But Samson knew that this person was born to be prey. By this point, Samson had lost count of how many preys he had taken out of the world. The number was many, and he had enjoyed each and every one. Each one special and memorable in its own way. The world was a little bit better now, because Samson had done his job. He did not always do it the same way. Sometimes he would crush their trachea, sometimes he would smother or strangle the prey. Sometimes he would use his great strength and just crush their skull like a styrofoam cup. He did not enjoy using tools, such as knives or rope. Samson appreciated the personal touch. After every kill, the police would arrive at the place where the prey lay, waiting to be found. And always an investigation would take place. But Samson had never been caught, nor had he ever been suspected. He knew why, of course, because this was his purpose. This was what he was born for. Destiny was on his side, and destiny would keep him safe. Safe to continue his mission. Samson was, and always had been, a predator. Lots of people killed, but that did not make them predators. Many murderers and serial killers thought themselves to be predators, but they too were prey. Samson belonged to a select few. He did not kill for money or for revenge or because he was crazy. He killed because killing was what he did. Sometimes Samson chose his prey closer to home, sometimes further. Sometimes in different towns, different parts of the country, or even different countries on occasion. Tonight's kill was close to home, only 20 miles away from where he lived. In all his life, Samson had never encountered another predator. He imagined there could not be many. Someone as exceptional at killing as Samson could not be a common thing. With so much prey in the world, a predator like Samson was able to perform his job as often as he desired. There would certainly never be a shortage of prey. However, Samson did not wish to go on a savage killing spree, murdering hundreds or even thousands of prey at a time. No, that was not the job of a predator. Samson was not a raving lunatic after all, but a patient, quiet stalker. He would select his prey carefully, meticulously, like the prey that lay now in the bed this night. Samson had seen her coming out of a daycare center with a small child 2 months prior. The child, her son, was now sleeping peacefully in the bedroom across the hall. The child had not been selected as tonight's prey, and Samson did not bundle his prey. After first seeing the woman, he had followed her, became familiar with her. Her name had been Violet Fleming. She had worked at the post office. She was 26 years old, divorced, one son, Henry Fleming. Samson had noticed that on warm nights like this one, she would leave her first-floor bedroom window open just a crack, an invitation for not only a predator, but for any crazed or drunken fool looking to take advantage of the woman or enjoy a quick thrill kill. Violet Fleming was truly the definition of prey. He looked her over, one last time. Did she move? No. Once he had done his job, she would never move again. Never. But still he watched and waited, just in case. At his home, Samson showered. There was no blood or other fluids on him from his victim. No, there never was. But he needed to clean off the smell of death. For a predator, that smell was strong, and it lingered. Once he finished, he fed his dog Hansel and sat down to watch his favorite television show about Detective Columbo, starring Peter Falk. The show was on each night at 2 o'clock in the morning. Samson expected that once they stopped showing it, he would purchase it on VHS tape. He always wondered if Columbo had been a real detective. Would he be able to connect a predator to its prey? In a strange way, Samson had thought of the detective as having the characteristics of a predator. The way he cleverly disguised himself in a cloak of idiocy to throw off the clueless suspect, while all along waiting to pounce. Samson admired the detective's skill to mentally torment and confuse the suspected murderers. The prey. While Samson watched an episode about a fitness instructor who had murdered his partner over money, oh, how Samson loathed such acts, the telephone rang. Samson was at first startled by the sound. It was rare that he would get a telephone call, and when he did, it was never this late at night. He ignored it, and the ringing ceased. A few moments later, however, the telephone rang again. Now he was even more surprised. Someone was trying to reach him. Him, Samson. He answered the phone. Yes.
I know who you are, and I saw what you did.
Who are you? Samson sat there confused at first, and then uneasy. Who was this voice? How did it know him? His telephone number. This phone number was still registered in the telephone directory under his mother's name, but his mother had been dead over a decade now. They had said, "I know who you are, and I saw what you did." What could they have been referring to? What did they see? Certainly not the killing he had performed this night. It was a complete impossibility. Samson was flawless in his work, and fate would never allow such a thing as a witness. He sat there, thinking, wondering, obsessing. Margaret sat waiting, staring at the door. It was around this time every day that the girl came home. Home from where? School, of course, but Margaret did not know this. All Margaret knew was that around this time of day the girl came home. And sure enough, right on schedule, Margaret began to hear the rattling of keys in the door and the familiar voice which she loved ever so much. The girl's name was Rachel, although Margaret did not know this.
Sweetie, sweetie. Good afternoon, Margaret. How was your day? Did you catch any mice? Did you watch TV? Did you, solve the mystery of the Bristol hum? Do you want some peanut butter? Good girl.
Later that afternoon, there was a call on the telephone. It was Rachel's friend, Alice. The two girls had recently met at a birthday party, and despite Alice being 2 years younger than Rachel, the two girls found that they had a lot in common. They had recently made plans for each Friday night to go roller skating and then come back to Rachel's house for a movie and a pizza. And this Friday would be no different. Margaret always hated when the girl would leave her for a second time. This time the cat had no idea when the girl would return. Sometimes the girl would come back after a short while, sometimes after a long while. Margaret hated not knowing. This time the girl was gone a long while, but not too long. Not as long as she had been gone the first time. When she came home, there was another girl with her. Margaret recognized the second girl. She had been in Margaret's home several times before. Margaret did not care for the second girl. Two girls did not mean two peanut butters, after all. When the pizza arrived, the trio sat down to watch an older movie they had rented called Raw Meat. About halfway through, the telephone rang, and Rachel answered it.
Oh, everything is fine, Mom. Alice is here and we were just watching a movie. Yes, I fed Margaret and she's sleeping now. Yes, thanks. See you tomorrow. I love you too. Bye-bye. That was just my mom. Did I miss anything? Not much.
When the movie was over, it was almost midnight, and the girls did not feel sleepy in the least, except for Margaret, who had hit the sack some time ago.
So, what do you want to do now? The night is still young. Not really. No, it's not. I know. Let's call some people on the phone and mess around with them like we did last time. All right.
The girls took out the telephone directory and began randomly calling numbers. Each time someone would answer, they took turns saying, "I know who you are, and I saw what you did." They would then hang up and laugh at the confused fool on the other end. Hello?
I know who you are, and I saw what you did.
What? What are you talking about? What did you do? What did I do? Hello?
I know who you are, and I saw what you did.
Now listen here. Now, who is this playing a joke on me?
Hey, let's call that guy from last week. The one with the creepy voice who sounded incredibly nervous. Sure. Do you remember his name? Because I've forgotten it. Yeah, I remember. Hold on. It was under a lady's name. Oh, here it is. Wilma R. Huffman. It was this number.
Yes.
I know who you are, and I saw what you did.
Who are you? Who are you?
I'm the one who knows you, the one who watches you. I am the one who sees what you do.
Samson hung up the receiver. This was the second time now that he had been called and harassed. Someone knew. How? How did they know? How could they know? He stared at the telephone, his eyes burning into it. Someone was teasing him, torturing him, treating him as though he were prey. Enraged, he got to his feet and kicked over the TV stand. Cans of food and water flew everywhere. He grabbed the old wooden bench which he had been seated on and flung it across the room. Panting and drooling like a wild dog, he let out a demonic roar which shook the house and made Hansel run for cover. That weekend, Rachel spent her time studying for her exams. School would be let out for the summer in just a few weeks, and she definitely did not want to spend it at summer school like she did last year. Alice had called her, asking if she wanted to go down to the falls swimming. And as much as she wanted to, Rachel knew she could not go. She was very close to failing science and math, and the final exams would be the deciding factor. Besides, if she could pass, she would have the whole summer to enjoy such activities. That week at school, Rachel had taken her math and science exams and knew that she had failed them miserably. Alice tried to cheer her up by telling her that she was sure that she at least would not be going to summer school this year. But it did not exactly make Rachel feel better.
We can still do a lot of fun things. I probably won't even be waking up until noon, and you'll almost be out of class by then. Yeah. And remember, it's not for the whole summer. Yeah, you're right.
When Rachel got home, she dropped her books to the floor and sat down at the kitchen table. Maybe she didn't do as poorly on the tests as she thought. All she had to do was pass, after all, not ace them. She sat there for a while, dreading another stolen summer, when she began to notice something, or rather, the lack of something. Margaret had never not been sitting at the door waiting for her when she came home.
Sweetie! Sweetie!
She looked all over the kitchen, but there was no sign of Margaret. She looked in the living room, the dining room, the bathroom. No Margaret.
Sweetie? Sweetie!
She took the jar of peanut butter out of the refrigerator and popped open the lid, hoping that wherever Margaret was hiding, she would hear it and come out for a treat. Nothing. Now Rachel began to grow worried. Maybe she got out and is lost. Margaret was not an outdoor cat. Rachel walked upstairs and stepped into her bedroom, trying to imagine where in the world Margaret could be. She needed to think no longer, for here was Margaret, right in Rachel's room, hanging from the ceiling, a chain wrapped tightly around her broken neck. The chain was so tight around Margaret's little neck that it cut deep into her flesh, and Rachel had difficulty removing it. She sat down on the bed, cradling the small animal in her arms. She cried for a time, and then it began to slowly sink in that someone must have done this to her cat. At that realization, Rachel froze with fear and noticed for the first time something stuck inside Margaret's mouth. A rolled-up piece of paper. She removed the paper and unrolled it to find a short message written down. Now I know who you are.